Good morning. How you doing? Okay. I did a video on why I'm alone all the time. It's kind of turned out kind of like an apologetic video saying, please forgive me for being such a loner. I hope you can still listen to me and appreciate my message. And I just walked around the block and thought about it after that. Just thought, you know what, I should do a playlist just on being alone. Not for me, not to defend and describe my situation, but to give strength to other people that live lonely lives. I've lived a very lonely life, but the thing is that when I graduated high school, right after that, I converted Mormon and became a Mormon missionary and went to Spain on a Mormon mission. And while I was in Spain, my family moved to Saudi Arabia, and they lived there for over 11 years. So for about half of my adult life, my family's lived on the other side of the planet, except two of my sisters. I have three sisters. One died of cancer, and then the other two's first lived here in Utah. One of them moved up to Montana, and so there's just like one sibling, and my little brother he was only, when I moved to Spain, he was only 4 years old, so he was only really in my life during high school. And then he moved to Saudi Arabia and spent his whole life on the other side of the planet, so I never really got to know him very well. And he doesn't really like me very much. I mean, he does, but he's kind of mean to me because he doesn't respect me. There's not much respect for me in the family because I ended up leaving the Mormon church and being atheist for a while, and then that's when I started getting heavy into depression, and I did weird things like I stick safety pins in my forehead. I stuck 3 safety pins in my forehead and would carve words in my arms with razor blades, and just smoke. My best friend smoked crack, was a crack dealer, and I'd go to his house all the time and smoke crack. And my other friends were heroin junkies, and I'd hang out with them and do heroin, and just my cigarettes, and being drunk all the time, and just depressed and hated myself, and picking fights with people. And it didn't go very good at first when I left the Mormon church to become atheist. But then eventually I found God, and at the same time I found who I would marry and the mother of my son. And we found God together, and I found Rasta, and so that was really disappointing to him. They were expecting me to turn around and see the light, but to become Mormon. And then I became Rastafarian, so that was just like this big annoying thing. And so they just lost respect in me, and now I'm transgender. So that's kind of the last straw for both of us. It's the last straw for me. It's like, my hell, you guys can't appreciate anything I do. You think all my music, every endeavor I do, like it all is just, you guys religiously consider it satanic, and you lose respect for me, and I'm just kind of like a doormat to them, so it's just, that's to defend their side of it, they religiously believe I'm a piece of shit, So I don't blame them. I probably would do the same thing if I was Mormon, but the thing is that because my family's lived on, even before they moved to Saudi Arabia, we never stayed in one place more than 3 or 5 years. So as a child, I constantly was moving to new schools, getting to know new friends. And so I'm not really from, if you ask me, I'll say I'm from California, but that's just where I lived as a teenager, because I feel like that's when, as far as how a place affects you, as far as who you are, I think California affected me the most. I consider myself a Californian because I think like a Californian. That's where my thinking comes from, California. But the truth is, I'm not from anywhere. I've moved around here and there, and I lived all over in the West. My dad's side of the family's from the East Coast, and I've never actually lived from the East Coast, but I've always been really attracted to that side of my family. So I'm just I'm just interested in Massachusetts. I think it's so cool. My family's from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm a direct descendant of John Proctor, and it's just like, it's like I'm the first generation since the Mayflower, to not be born in Massachusetts, and it's just like I think that's cool, but I've never lived there. So I'm not really from there either. So I've moved around. So the thing is, as far as being alone all the time, like I've never had the problems that I've had since I moved to Utah, And I moved to Utah 21 years ago, and I lived here when I was a kid. When I was a kid and I lived here in Ogden, that's when I used to get beat up all the time. So and then I moved out of Ogden. I've lived in other places in Utah, but I've lived in Ogden, 5 years as a child, and now I've been here for 21 years here in Ogden. So that's like 5 plus 21, 26. I've lived 26 years of my life in Ogden, longer than anywhere else I've ever lived. And the people here just are meaner than anywhere else I've lived. And I lived in like downtown LA and Paramount, which is right next to Long Beach and Compton, and those are some pretty rough areas, but I still could find friends, and I find friends here, but everybody draws their curtains shut, and I just can't. A lot of it's not because there aren't people here to make friends with, it's because I can't figure out how to make friends with them. They'll say, hey, let's be friends, we're friends, you're awesome, and then it's like, what, do I invite myself over to your house? I can't ever figure out what the next step is, and so now it's just been so many years that I've just been alone, and life's a lot better now, because like before, when I was living life as a man and I liked women, I don't blame the women for not liking me. I was drunk all the time. When I was a parent, I wasn't drunk, I wasn't a drunk parent. But it's the second my son would go to his mom's house, I just would be drunk until he comes back. And as soon as my son would go to bed at night, I'd be drunk, So like every second I was away from my son, I would be drunk. And, I just, with my coming right out of my background of smoking crack and heroin and everything, and going straight to living like that, it's just like there was never a time when I would have been attractive to women, I was always a stinky, disgusting drunk, and I didn't even love myself. It's not attractive when you don't love yourself. Now I love myself, and I'm never drunk, and I can look people in the eye. Before I couldn't really look people in the eye, so now living life as a female, and now as it turns out, I like men. I don't even like women anymore, which is another story. It's really rare that someone's sexuality changes. It's not a normal part of transitioning. It's not a normal part of being transgender. It's not a normal part of being a human. It's really rare, but I'm not the only one that this has happened to. But I'm just so much happier now. I love myself, and it's made me attractive to men, and there's lots of men that find me attractive, and a lot of it's because I know that if I end up finding a man and falling in love with him, I'll be able to actually do it. If I would have found a woman, I wouldn't have been able to do anything but have sex with her. I didn't know how to love myself or love someone else, but now I do. I would know how to, like I would be able to appreciate the love they give me instead of just think they're just doing it, and things like that, And I would know how to give love back and take care. If I know how to take care of myself, so I'd know how to take care of them, and when to back off, and I wouldn't have like unhealthy attachment styles and things like that, you know, and just like, so things have got a lot better, but it's also just like, it's hard for me to click in this place. So that's why I'm not real judgmental on myself for being alone all the time, because I know that, like, if I a lot of the reason I've been here so long is because I had a baby. My son's 20 years old. I've been here being a single parent raising my son, and now I don't want to move out of here because I don't want to move away from my son. I love my son, and I'm excited for him to meet a woman and start making babies, you know, and have grandkids. I can't wait to be a grandparent. I love children. In a way, I never really grew up. I've really kept a lot of my childish innocence about myself, and it's because I just really love children, you know, and they can tell. Children love me because they can tell there's just definitely something different about me from a child's eyes. You know, they can see that I'm more like a child than an adult normally would be, you know, and it's because I freaking respect children and I love them, you know. And when I was in college, I was studying to be an elementary school teacher, you know. And I'm the oldest of 5 kids, so I grew up babysitting my siblings. So I've just always been taking care of children what seems like my whole life, you know. And so that's what I've been doing here, but I know that, like, if I moved somewhere else, you know, like sometimes I fantasize going to San Francisco, where I expect that it would be more acceptable to be a trans woman, and people wouldn't be such beginners at understanding transgender people, and so there would already be men that are just ready to fall in love with you, you know, and you know, like I just know that a lot of it I would do better if I was somewhere else, but it just didn't turn out that way. But so, like, the message to other, that makes it sound like, oh, you know, you're just like us, a lonely person. I am, but the thing is that in the process, and it's probably why it happened, things happen for a reason. In the process, I've learned how to love being alone. Like, it's not, to me, this is not a sad story. This is a story of triumph. Like, at this point, a lot of the reason I'm alone is because I like to be alone. You know, I'm saving myself for the, you know, I've learned that, you know, just grabbing friends and having friends because you don't want to be alone, and having friends because you want to have friends, and having friends because you want to look like you can have friends is not a very, it's living hell. It's not a way to live. It's not worth it. It's better just to be alone and enjoy being alone, and it's better to do that. And well, the best thing is to have real friends, you know. So it'll happen eventually. You know, I'll find an awesome boyfriend or whatever, and find, you know, and find some really good friends and stuff like that, and then I'll, you know, I'll make it happen more, you know. But it just hasn't happened yet, and I'm not in a hurry or desperate in any way. You know, I'm enjoying being alone. I've learned to love being alone.